Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I am Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi launches multiple projects for boosting agri-economy in Jammu and Kashmir, interacts with beneficiaries. India's Dr. Jaishankar advocates for joint efforts on maritime safety and security in Japan after 3 killed in first fatal Houthi attack on a Red Sea merchant ship. US President Joe Biden to deliver the State of the Union address today. Republican rival Donald Trump says he will do live play-by-play of Biden's address, challenges him for a debate. And nuclear chief Rafael Grossi meets Vladimir Putin after talks with officials over safety of Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Crimeans to vote in Russian presidential election for the second time. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Jammu and Kashmir on Thursday to participate in the Viksit Bharat Viksit Jammu Kashmir program with an aim to boost agri-economy and tourism on Thursday. Prime Minister Modi inspected the exhibition and walked through the stalls displaying Jammu and Kashmir's local arts and culture by the artisans. The Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir, Manoj Sinha, felicitated the Prime Minister and gifted him a painting. Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched and dedicated multiple projects worth over 5,000 crore rupees to the nation on the occasion. The Indian Prime Minister also distributed appointment letters at Srinagar's Bakshi Stadium. The appointment letters were given to nearly 1,000 newly recruited government employees in Jammu and Kashmir. Further, the Indian Prime Minister, as we told you, also distributed appointment letters at Srinagar's Bakshi Stadium, and Prime Minister Modi interacted with beneficiaries on the occasion. These beneficiaries were from Shopian, Jammu, Kupwara, Srinagar, Ganderbal, Bandipora, Kathua and Kishtwar districts.
नाजिम नज़ीर है। मैं पुलवामा के सांबुरा गांव का रहने वाला हूं। मेरी जर्नी स्टार्ट हुई 2018 में। मैंने अपने घर के छत पे 2 मधुमक्खी के बक्से रखे थे और मैं उस टाइम पे 10वीं जमात में पढ़ता था। 2019 में मैंने सोचा कि इन 2 बक्सों को मैं कैसे बढ़ाऊं, तो मैं सरकार के पास गया। मुझे उस टाइम पे 50% की सब्सिडी पे मुझे 25 बॉक्स मिले और 25 बॉक्स मिलने के बाद मैंने पहली उससे एक्सट्रैक्शन की ऑलमोस्ट 75 केजी। जब मैंने वो 75 केजी एक्सट्रैक्ट किए, उस टाइम पे इतना डेवलप नहीं था। मैं अपना शहद ड्यू बोतल में भर के गांव में बेचता था। उस टाइम पे मेरी पहली आमदनी थी 60,000 रुपए। मैंने उस टाइम पे एक सहारा लिया PMEGP का। PMEGP के तौर मुझे 5 लाख रुपए मिले और मैंने अपना एक कारोबार बढ़ाया। और 2020 में मैंने सर अपनी वेबसाइट खोली और वेबसाइट खोलने के बाद धीरे धीरे मेरा एक बड़ा ब्रांड बन गया। और ब्रांड बनने के बाद हमने ऑनलाइन हजारों केजीज के शहद भेजे। धीरे धीरे करके मेरे साथ लगभग 100 बंदे सर जुड़ गए जो ये मधुमक्खी का काम करते हैं।
और आपने एक प्रकार से स्वीट रिवॉल्यूशन, हमने ग्रीन रिवॉल्यूशन सुना है, हमने व्हाइट रिवॉल्यूशन सुना है, आज मेरा कश्मीर नाजिम जैसे युवाओं के कारण स्वीट रिवॉल्यूशन का नेतृत्व कर रहा है। बहुत बहुत बधाई।
So this was a beneficiary interacting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and telling him how he has benefited from the various government programs in the Union Territory. Well, this is Prime Minister's first visit to the valley after the abrogation of Article 370 in 2019. Participating in the Viksit Bharat Viksit Jammu program in Bakshi Stadium, Prime Minister Modi inaugurated a slew of projects launched under the Swadesh Darshan and Pilgrimage Rejuvenation and Spiritual Heritage Augmentation Drive scheme. These are included in the integrated development of Hasrat Bal Shrine also. The Hasrat Bal Shrine holds immense cultural significance in Jammu and Kashmir. We have a report.
Situated on the left bank of the famous Dal Lake in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, the Hasrat Bal Shrine holds relevance to Muslims as it is believed to preserve the sacred hair of Prophet Muhammad's beard. In an effort to create world-class infrastructure and amenities for pilgrims and tourists visiting the Hasrat Bal Shrine and to enhance their holistic spiritual experience, the project Integrated Development of Hasrat Bal Shrine has been executed. The key components of the project include site development of the entire area, including construction of boundary wall of the shrine, illumination of Hasrat Bal Shrine's precinct, improvement of ghats and devri paths around the shrine, construction of Sufi interpretation center, construction of tourist facilitation center, installation of signages, multi-level storied car parking, construction of public convenience blocks and entrance gateway of the shrine. The projects to be developed with over $4 million will increase tourism and will generate direct employment for the locals. Not only this, it will also boost and promote local handicrafts, cuisines, art and culture in the entire region. To be revamped under the Pilgrimage Rejuvenation and Spiritual Augmentation Drive, the Hasrat Bal Shrine holds immense cultural significance in Jammu and Kashmir. Prasad provides financial assistance to state governments, union territory administrations for infrastructure development at tourist destinations. With inputs from Ramatyagi, DD India.
There was a lot of excitement about the Prime Minister's address in Srinagar. People are filled with high hopes and positive changes in the Union Territory.
नरेंद्र मोदी साहब ने बहुत अच्छे काम किए और हमारे भलाई के लिए, गरीब लोगों की भलाई के लिए बहुत अच्छे साबित हुए। औरतों के बारे में बहुत अच्छी स्कीमें हैं, जैसे हमारी कुछ महिला मंडल बनाए गए हैं और उनके साथ ऐसे ग्रुप हैं जिनकी वजह से हमारी गवर्नमेंट ने बहुत बड़ी स्कीम रखी हुई है। इससे हमें बहुत ज्यादा फायदा हो रहा है, खासकर गरीब लोगों को और गरीब औरतों को।
इस खुशी में आए हैं यहाँ पर वेलकम करने के लिए नरेंद्र मोदी साहब को। 2019 से जो हालात है वो पूरा अमन तौर पर चल रहे हैं यहाँ पर, और जो आने वाली समय है हम ये कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि जो आम जनता है उनको सहूलियत मिल जाएगी।
Further, Prime Minister Modi shared photos of Shankaracharya Hill in Kashmir on his social media platform just before the address in the historic Bakshi Stadium. Moving on, the Indian Consulate in Dubai has introduced a fresh insurance package for Indian blue-collar workers to provide financial benefits to the kin of the deceased in case of natural or accidental deaths. This innovative insurance package, known as the Life Protection Plan, not only provides coverage for natural deaths but also offers a range of benefits. Concerns over the lack of insurance coverage for natural deaths have been mounting. These include 24-hour global coverage, death benefits for both natural and accidental causes, as well as compensation for permanent, total or partial disability resulting from accidents. Additionally, the plan covers repatriation expenses of up to 12,000 AED per person in the unfortunate event of a worker passing away due to either an accident or natural causes. Beneficiaries are eligible to receive compensation ranging from 35,000 to 75,000 DH depending on the selected premium. Effective from March 1st, 2024, the LPP offers various sum assured options with minimal premiums starting at 37 AED per annum. We are heading for a short break in DD India News Hour. We'll be back in just a bit. Don't go anywhere.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. India has raised concerns over situation evolving in the Red Sea, saying the maritime safety and security have become particularly pressing concerns. Reacting on this, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar pushed for strengthening defence capabilities for the benefit of the larger region.
As a voice of the Global South, India is particularly conscious of this responsibility. Our development efforts today span 78 nations across different continents. Can India and Japan coordinate in regard to their development assistance? Sixth, the responsibility to safeguard and secure is no less onerous. Maritime safety and security have become particularly pressing concerns. We can see that at the Red Sea every day. We've just had the first casualties there in shipping. So have issues of cyber security. At the same time, the challenges of the past and the present remain very, very much with us. Counter-terrorism is a good example. It is also necessary to strengthen our defense capabilities for the benefit of the larger region.
The Indian minister's remarks came after Houthi missile attack killed 3 seafarers on a Red Sea merchant ship on Wednesday. These are the first fatalities reported since the Iran-aligned Yemeni group began strikes against shipping in one of the world's busiest trade lanes. 4 other crew members were also injured, with 3 of them in critical condition. The vessel too sustained significant damage. Houthis claimed responsibility for the attack, which set the Greek-owned Barbados-flagged ship True Confidence ablaze around 50 nautical miles off the coast of Yemen's port of Aden. Meanwhile, Britain and the United States have been launching retaliatory strikes against the Houthis. The US military on Wednesday carried out strikes against 2 unmanned aerial vehicles in Yemen that presented an imminent threat to merchant vessels and US Navy ships in the region. On its part, the Britain embassy has tweeted on the death of innocent sailors, saying, "This was sad but inevitable consequence of Houthis recklessly firing missiles at international shipping. They must stop." Meanwhile, Indian Navy has been consistently providing support to the merchant vessels that come under attack by the Houthis. In the latest instance, the Indian Navy came to the rescue of Barbados flagged bulk carrier MV True Confidence. The vessel was reportedly hit by a drone or a missile on Wednesday. The attack resulted in fire on board and critical injuries to some of the crew members, forcing the crew to abandon the ship. INS Kolkata, deployed for maritime security operations, arrived at the scene of action and rescued 21 crew members, including 1 Indian national, from the life raft using its integral helicopters and boats. Critical medical aid was provided to the injured crew by the ship's medical team. The rescued crew, including the critically injured personnel, have been evacuated to Djibouti by INS Kolkata.
We use the helicopter and we pull up 8 people and then we send our boat because some people are very injured so they cannot come by helicopter, so we send 2 boats and we put them in the boat and brought them to the ship. I'm very happy that the Djibouti government has very quickly given us berth.
Wednesday was a big day for India in its bid to showcase its maritime prowess. The Indian Navy commissioned INS Jatayu at Minicoy, its second base in Lakshadweep, and its first MH-60R multi-role helicopter squadron INAS 334 Sea Hawks at Koche, following which Indian Navy Chief Admiral R. Harikumar spoke about how important is the Indian Navy's role in the world with regard to these attacks in the Red Sea.
We are now supporting the merchant ships which are taking the transit from the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden and the vice versa, both eastward as well as westward. We have ships deployed there. We are the largest resident naval power in the Indian Ocean region. So therefore, we have a sense of high sense of responsibility. We need to, because we are there, we have the ability to respond first. Our mission-based deployments have helped us. So when a ship is deployed on mission-based, tasks, it can undertake a wide variety of tasks. It is fully ready for combat. At the same time, it can move on to undertake a diplomatic role. It can perform a constabulary role, or it can even perform a humanitarian related role, benign role.
And to discuss the recent threats to shipping vessels in the Red Sea, we are now joined by Commodore Anil Jai Singh, Vice President of the Indian Maritime Foundation. Welcome, sir, to News Hour. The Houthis have been attacking ships in the Red Sea since November. What is at stake here?
The moment any conflict spills over into the maritime domain, it has very wide global repercussions. The first reaction, of course, was the first attacks happened. Straight away, most of the large shipping companies in the world diverted all their shipping instead of through the Suez and Red Sea. They diverted it around the Cape of Good Hope. Now, the moment you divert shipping around the Cape of Good Hope, you add about 8,000 nautical miles to the distance. You add about 10 more days to the time taken to travel to a port, and the consequent increase in freight rates, fuel rates, etc. Besides, of course, the disruption of global supply chains. So in this case, this has now been going on for almost 3 months. The Houthis have been attacking. They started their attacks, I think, in November, sometime in November. We are now in. So this will have a cascading effect on the global economy. Not felt immediate, it's felt over a period of time. Already the container cargo rates have more than trebled in the last few months, going in either direction, whether coming to the Indian Ocean or going from the Indian Ocean. So all this is going to really impact the global economy, is going to impact individual countries. It's already impacting India. Some of our exports of things like basmati rice, pharmaceuticals, etc. has been affected. Some of our steel has been affected. Also, what is worrying is the impact on energy security. If they suddenly set a tanker ablaze or some sort of attacks on tankers begin, that will have a major effect on the global energy scenario. Prices will go up, fuel will, movement of crude will get affected. And in this case, the Houthis obviously are being supported by states. Otherwise, a militant outfit cannot be firing anti-ship ballistic missiles and anti-ship cruise missiles and underwater drones and all other kinds of sophisticated naval weaponry. Obviously, they're getting enough support from state-sponsored, from various states. Of course, the Americans have leveled allegations at Iran. Perhaps it is, perhaps it's not. We have not made any statement to that effect. But it is very worrying as to where this is going to end, because at sea, a situation can escalate very rapidly. First they attacked the merchant ships. Americans just defended the merchant ships, the Royal Navy and the US Navy. Then to preempt these attacks, the Royal Navy and the US Navy started attacking Houthi positions in Yemen to neutralize the missile attacks which were incoming, which led to a larger retaliation from the Houthis. So this is a never-ending cycle, and it can get pretty nasty at sea because of the potential for escalation. Now you've seen the first loss of life. Now this is a new dimension. where ships are actually catching fire and people are actually dying. So we have to look at it from that particular perspective. India has done well so far, not to get into the shooting game, but we've done a tremendous job. The Indian Navy has done a tremendous job of escorting ships from both and preventing piracy attacks as well as terrorist attacks. So I think this whole imbroglio is going to have a major effect on the global economy and has a lot of global repercussions as well.
Okay. Commodore Anil, despite their best efforts, no country, including the USA, has been able to stop these sea attacks by the Houthis. And the European Union last month launched a Red Sea Naval Mission as well. How much success, if any, do you reckon this mission has had?
Well, it's been successful in being able to, while some ships have got hit, but it has been successful in preventing attacks on many more ships. So I think from that perspective, these missions are required. It is a very disproportionate response. I mean, there is Task Force 153, there is Operation Prosperity Guardian, there is Operation Poseidon Archer. Now the EU has waded into this imbroglio there. So it is a major response. Indian Navy is there with 10 to 12 ships, helicopters, aircraft. So if you see the kind of response that navies have reacted with, obviously it's something that is of great concern, and it is something that needs to be nipped in the bud. But the problem with most non-traditional threats is that one can only be reactive. I mean, what more can a navy do? They're already attacking Houthi positions in Yemen, but the Houthis are still getting armed by other countries, so they are still being able to launch attacks on ships. So how much navies can really do is limited, but they have to sort of last out there. They have to persevere and literally make sure that the terrorist organization or the militant organization runs out of steam sooner rather than later. And that is one way of bringing this to a close. Otherwise, random attacks can continue forever. If the Houthis continue to provoke, and their reason for provoking is twofold. Firstly, of course, is their so-called sympathy for the Palestinian cause, or against because the Israeli attack on Hamas are not ending. That is one.
Yes.
Secondly, their own agenda. They have found an excuse to further their own agenda as well in this whole conflict. So it works both ways,
Yes, but sir, do you see this situation possibly escalating into the near future into a wider conflict?
It could. It certainly could, because like I said, anything that spills over to the maritime domain has tremendous potential for escalation. At the moment, it's restricted to the US Navy and the Royal Navy and a couple of other navies, only taking out Houthi positions in Yemen. But it's very difficult to say where it'll end up. The whole of West Asia is politically fairly volatile at the moment. And which way the tide will turn in this conflict, if this Israel Hamas conflict continues, which way the tide will turn, who else will enter the conflict, will Iran sort of take a more active role? These are all questions that, are very difficult to answer at this point of time, but this potential is very much there for an escalation. And an escalation, if Iran gets involved because of the Israeli issue, then that could also affect the energy security from the Straits of Hormuz. 60% of oil comes out from the Straits of Hormuz from the Arabian Gulf, where so far there has been no disruption. But the Straits of Hormuz are controlled by Iran. So if Iran gets into this conflict and decides to impose sort of penalties on countries who are they inimical towards, they have the potential to majorly disrupt global energy security.
So finally, do you think these attacks should be seen as terrorist attacks, as was also said by Joe Biden in January?
Yes, these are nothing but terrorist attacks, because the Houthis have no reason to be fighting a war with the US or the UK. They're in support of the Palestinian cause. But the way they're going about their attacks, it's obviously the Houthis are a militant organization. We've had the Hezbollah coming in, we've had the Houthis coming in. So yes, I would also classify these mainly as a manifestation of maritime terrorism. And in this case, what happened is it also led to the resurgence of Somali piracy, which had been lying very low for the last about 10 years. After 2013, not very many pirate attacks had taken place. But this has encouraged the Somali pirates also to re-energize them into again carrying out piracy attacks in the Western Arabian Sea and at the Bab el-Mandeb Straits. You see, a choke point like the Bab el-Mandeb is very vulnerable for ships because they're very narrow waters. The Bab el-Mandeb is 18 miles wide at its narrowest, and ships have to move in both directions. So ships have to go through something called a traffic separation scheme. So the moment ships have to go through a traffic separation scheme, they have to stick to one course down that traffic separation scheme. So that gives them very little room to maneuver. and they become very easy pickings for somebody wishing to carry out an attack on them, because it becomes they can do nothing to avoid an attack. They are moving on a straight course, and they're very easy to target and track by anybody wishing to carry out an attack on them.
Well, I mean, one can only hope for peaceful times, peaceful seas. Thank you very much, Commodore Anil Jaisingh, for joining us in the Indian News Hour. India's External Affairs Minister spoke about maritime safety in Japan, where he addressed the first Raisina Roundtable on Thursday. The minister noted that India and Japan enjoy special strategic and global partnership with the intent to meet the challenges facing the global order. Dr. Jaishankar is on a two-day visit to Tokyo, where he will also take part in the foreign minister's strategic dialogue with his Japanese counterpart. The External Affairs Minister reached Japan after concluding his visit to South Korea, where he met the top leaders during his visit. You're with us on DD India News Hour, still to come on this show. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi says the US is clinging to wrong perceptions of China and is yet to fulfill its promises on bilateral ties. North Korean leader Kim Jongun orders heightened readiness for war as he inspects a major military operations base in the western region. And Venus of the Rags was inaugurated in Naples, Italy on Wednesday. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. A quick reminder of the headlines we are tracking at this hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi launches multiple projects for boosting agri-economy in Jammu and Kashmir. India's Dr. Jaishankar advocates for joint efforts on maritime safety and security in Japan after 3 were killed in the first fatal Houthi attack on a Red Sea merchant ship. US President Joe Biden to deliver the State of the Union address today. Republican rival Donald Trump says he will do a live play-by-play of the Biden's address, challenges him for a debate anytime. And nuclear chief Rafael Grossi meets Vladimir Putin after talks with officials over safety of Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. Crimeans to vote in the Russian presidential election for the second time. Election fever is gripping the United States after their sweep of the Super Tuesday votes. Donald Trump has challenged Joe Biden to TV debates. The Republican stated online in all caps that he would participate in a TV forum with the Democratic president anytime, anywhere, any place. Trump's challenge also came hours after his last Republican rival Nikki Haley dropped out of the race to be the Republican nominee for the White House. However, no debates have so far been agreed ahead of November's presidential elections. US President Joe Biden, meanwhile, is to deliver the third State of the Union address of his presidency on Thursday, an opportunity for him to highlight his successes and chart a path forward. Biden is expected to discuss his handling of the economy, reproductive rights, gun control, and immigration. One person who would be following this address closely will be Donald Trump. Moving on, updates related to the Russia-Ukraine conflict now. International Atomic Energy Agency Chief Rafael Grossi held talks over the safety at the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant with Russian officials on Wednesday. Grossi held talks with state nuclear power company Rosatom, where safety at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant was the main focus. He also had discussions with the Russian defense and foreign ministries. One of the main power lines of the plant is currently functioning after it lost connection to all its external power lines. IAEA said situation at the plant remains precarious. The IAEA chief, Rafael Grossi, has said that the talks with President Vladimir Putin were intensive.
We have just finished a very intensive and exhaustive working session with colleagues from Rosatom. There was an international consensus, and we know that these days international consensus is very difficult to get. There was international consensus around the fact that nuclear energy must be accelerated. This is very important.
Meanwhile, ballot papers for the Russian presidential elections were delivered to Sevastopol in the annexed Crimea region on Wednesday. The election officials said 3,33,900 ballots are printed for the city, which is over 2,000 less than the registered voters. As per local election commission secretary, almost 24,000 voters have chosen the remote mode of voting with electronic ballots. This is for the second time that the Crimean voters are taking part in the Russian presidential election. These elections will run for 3 days from March 15th. Russia annexed Crimea and Sevastopol in February 2014. Russian troops continued their relentless march in eastern Ukraine for a third consecutive week, providing no respite since seizing Avdiivka on February 17th. Russian troops have advanced on the west of Avdiivka to the outskirts of Orlivka and Berditchi. The Russian Defense Ministry said Moscow's forces took 4 months to advance through the Donetsk region before seizing Avdiivka. Russian troops claim to have advanced marginally at many points along the battlefront in Donetsk. Another advance was confirmed in the village of Novomykhailivka. Meanwhile, Ukraine's naval drones scored another hit in the past week. Next, an update on the Israel-Hamas conflict. The United States has said on Wednesday that the talks on ceasefire and release of hostages in Gaza could still reach an agreement between Israel and Hamas after days of failed negotiations. Negotiators from the Hamas group, Qatar and Egypt are trying to secure a 40-day ceasefire in time for the holy month of Ramadan, which begins early next week. Israel is not part of these talks that are underway in Cairo. US President Joe Biden said that ally Israel was cooperating and urged Hamas to accept the rational offer Israel had made. The deal presented to Hamas for Gaza would free some of the hostages it still holds following the October 7th attack, in which Israel said 1,200 people were killed and 253 abducted. Staying in Asia, Taiwan has accused China of stepping up grey zone warfare tactics against it, aiming to make the areas around the democratic island saturated with balloons, drones and civilian boats. Taiwan Defense Ministry said Beijing has launched multi-front saturated grey zone tactics to harass Taiwan, including increased patrols of ships and planes. It added China has also incorporated research and militia vessels in a move to disguise military activities with civilians. Meanwhile, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi, in a briefing on Thursday, termed the actions of those who support Taiwan as the greatest destructive factor to peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait.
If there are still people who condone or support Taiwan independence, they are challenging China's sovereignty. If certain countries insist on maintaining official relations with the Taiwan region, they are interfering in China's internal affairs. Our bottom line is also clear. We'll never allow Taiwan to be separated from the motherland.
Another country that is in tussle with Beijing is Philippines. This is regarding which it has accused the United States of using Manila as a pawn in the South China Sea. Relations between the two Asian nations have deteriorated over their territorial dispute in the region. Manila says that Chinese Coast Guard vessels caused 2 collisions with the Philippine boats and fired water cannons at one of them during a resupply mission. DD India's Kate Fisher reports from Washington, D.C.
The US State Department condemned China's repeated obstruction of Filipino vessels undertaking lawful maritime operations in the South China Sea. The Chinese Foreign Ministry defended its actions, saying it had been taking, quote, control measures against the Philippines' illegal intrusion into waters that it claims, as well as accusing a Philippine ship of intentionally ramming a Chinese one and saying that the Philippines should not let itself be at the mercy of the United States. Well, the US has said it stands with its ally, the Philippines, and has reaffirmed that the mutual defence treaty they share extends to armed attacks on Philippine armed forces, public vessels or aircraft, including those of its Coast Guard, anywhere in the South China Sea. Filipino President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said that though he viewed the actions against the country's Coast Guard with great alarm, it is not the time or the reason to invoke that treaty. Well, Tuesday's collisions follow similar incidents in December, with hostilities between Beijing and an increasingly assertive Philippines worsening. China lays claim to almost the entire South China Sea, ignoring competing claims from several Southeast Asian nations and an international arbitration ruling to the contrary. In Washington, Kate Fisher, reporting for DD India.
North Korean leader Kim Jongun has ordered heightened war preparations. State media said that North Korean leader Kim Jongun inspected field training of troops at a major military operations base in the western region of the country and ordered heightened readiness of war. According to the report, Kim said that the military must dynamically usher in a new heyday of intensifying war preparations in line with the requirements of the prevailing situation. The tour of the base came after the start of annual combined military drills by US and South Korean forces on Monday in the south. Afghanistan continues to face a dire situation due to a lack of access to basic services and increased vulnerabilities. Reacting on this, India's permanent ambassador to the United Nations, Ruchira Kambod, said India's objective is to establish long-term peace, security and stability in Afghanistan. She added that India's assistance over the past 2 years has primarily focused on 3 pillars: food security, medical supplies and education.
As far as the humanitarian situation in Afghanistan is concerned, this is dire, as we have just heard from the briefers. It is therefore important that the international community should not lose its focus on Afghanistan and its people and steps up with humanitarian assistance. India's own assistance over the past 2 years has primarily focused on 3 pillars: food security, medical supplies and education.
Nepal's Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal reconstituted his cabinet on Wednesday. 16 new ministers were appointed, augmenting the Council of Ministers to 20 members. Dahal appointed 4 ministers from his party, the CPN Maoist Centre, 7 from the CPN UML, 3 from the Rashtriya Swatantra Party and 2 from the CPN US. Earlier on Monday, a minister, each from the UML, Maoist Centre and Swatantra Party, were inducted into the cabinet. You're watching DD India News Hour. Now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. 50 people, mostly women, have been kidnapped by suspected Islamist insurgents in northeastern Nigeria this week. 3 of them have managed to escape. This is the latest mass abduction by the Boko Haram and Islamic State West Africa province. These fighters, who have waged an insurgency in the country for more than a decade, has become more worrisome. Peru's President Dina Boluarte named Gustavo Adrianzen, a representative to the Organization of American States, as its new Prime Minister on Wednesday. Former Prime Minister Alberto Otarola had stepped down a day earlier amid corruption accusations. Prolonged dry spell has wreaked havoc across Morocco, disrupting the natural habitat of the region, causing an environmental emergency with food and water shortage. The government of Morocco plans to re-agitate traditional water intakes and water pipes with a budget of up to 255 million dirhams. An open-air installation of Italian contemporary artist Michelangelo Pistoletto's Venus of the Rags was inaugurated in Naples, Italy on Wednesday. The sculpture had been destroyed by an arson attack last year. The new version is made of fireproof material. Still to come on DD India News Hour. India's growth outpaces major economies, says S&P's chief economist. And Indian bowlers run through England's batting lineup in the second session of the Dharamshala Test. And we also show you preparations in India as the world gears up to celebrate the International Women's Day on 8th of March.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're with us on DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. Next, the story of the growth of Indian economy. The growth trajectory of the Indian economy has garnered international confidence. According to the global chief economist at S&P Global Ratings, Paul Grunwald, emerging markets are outpacing developed countries in growth, and India stands out as a particularly strong performer. Grunwald, in an interview to a national daily, highlighted India's promising trajectory, citing substantial investments, robust consumption and efficiency improvements. He projected a growth rate of 7.3% for India this year and 6.5% for the following fiscal year, emphasizing India's position as the fastest growing major economy. The S&P chief suggested that India could potentially challenge the United States as the second largest growth contributor globally. A series of crucial initiatives aimed at improving soil health and guaranteeing fertilizer quality in India were launched today. Agriculture Minister Arjun Munda and Rural Development Minister Giriraj Singh launched the Soil Health Card portal and mobile application and also initiated the School Soil Health Program. Additionally, the Krishi Sakshi Convergence Program, designed to empower women in agriculture, is a significant aspect of this project. The inauguration also showcases the CFQCTI portal dedicated to fertilizer sample testing. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen is expected to receive the backing of the European Union's leading political group, the European People's Party, for a second term at its Congress in Bucharest on Thursday. Von der Leyen is the only candidate in the centre-right EPP vote, marking a stepping stone towards what seems like her likely reappointment. If reappointed by the leaders of the EU's 27 member countries, von der Leyen will have a second shot at charting the bloc's policies with regard to big technology, state aid to Chinese investment, screening and sanctions against Russia. And time now for sporting action. To give us all the latest sporting updates, we have Deepika Mehto joining us now. Deepika, updates on, of course, the final test match?
Indeed. Good afternoon, Tanvi. Let's quickly bring our viewers a quick update on the ongoing India versus England fifth and final test. So, India is playing England in the fifth and final test match at the scenic Dharamshala. Indian bowlers ran through England batting lineup in the second session to dismiss them for 218 runs after opener Zach Crawley gave England a terrific start. Kuldeep Yadav picked a 5-wicket haul to reduce England to 194 for a loss of 8 wickets in the noon session on day 1 of the 5th test. Zach Crawley made a classy unbeaten half-century, his 4th of the series, but again failed to convert it into a big one. Earlier, England skipper Ben Stokes won the toss and opted to bat. England's Johnny Bairstow and star all-rounder of India, Ravichandran Ashwin, have been handed over their 100th test caps. On the other hand, Devdutt Padikkal became 5th debutant for India in the series, who came in place of Rajat Patidar. Ravichandran Ashwin, who himself is playing his 100th test, handed Padikkal his debut cap. Now, Ashwin was handed his 100th test cap in a special ceremony by head coach Rahul Dravid. India currently leads the 5-match series by 3-1 against England. On to badminton. India's top badminton player PV Sindhu advanced to the women's singles second round after grinding out a 3-game victory over Canada's Michelle Lee at French Open Super 750 badminton tournament on Wednesday. In men's category, Kidambi Srikanth too progressed to the men's singles round with a stunning victory over Taipei's Chao Tien Chen. India's H.S. Pranoy, however, fell short to make an early exit. In the next round, Srikanth Kidambi will fight it out against China's world number 17 Lu Guangzu, who ended the campaign of H.S. Pranoy with a fine 21-17, 21-17 victory at the adjacent court of the French Open. On to soccer now. Real Madrid has entered the quarter-finals of the Champions League on Wednesday. Now, withstanding an onslaught from RB Leipzig, Real Madrid secured a 1-1 draw in the second leg of their last 16 tie, sending them to the quarter-finals with a 2-1 aggregate victory. RB Leipzig were arguably the better side and missed several gilt-edged chances. But Real Madrid increased the tempo in the second half and ultimately did enough to seal their place in the last 8. Staying on soccer, Manchester City too cruised into the Champions League quarter-final round with a 3-1 victory over FC Copenhagen in the last 16 second leg. Man City will find out their quarter-final opponents in the draw on the 15th of March. Moving on to tennis now, 3-time champion Rafael Nadal has withdrawn from Indian Wells Masters on the eve of his first round match, saying he's not ready to play at the highest level. Now, Nadal returned to competition in Brisbane in January after almost a year, sidelined with a hip flexor injury, but had to miss the Australian Open with another muscle tear. Now, the former world number 1 expressed regret over his inability to participate in the prestigious tournament, despite being on site in the California desert and engaging in training sessions earlier this week. The 37-year-old Spaniard was scheduled to face former world number 3 Milos Raonic, but will now be replaced by lucky loser Sumit Nagal of India. Staying on tennis, Andy Murray sealed a straightforward 6-3, 6-2 victory over Belgian qualifier David Goffin in the first round at Indian Wells on Wednesday. The 3-time major winner put in a solid serving performance, winning 85% of his first serve points while not facing a single break point. The victory sees Murray's head-to-head record with Goffin improving by 8-0, having first played the 2017 ATP Finals champion in 2010. The 36-year-old Scotsman is now 3-6 for the season and will meet 5th seed Andrei Rublev in the second round on Friday. So that was a quick wrap from the world of sports. Back to Tanvi for all other news and updates.
Thank you so much, Deepika, for filling us in with those updates. And as the world gears up to celebrate the International Women's Day on 8th of March, India's leading low-cost aircraft carrier Indigo Airlines have redeveloped the Guru Dronacharya metro station in Gurugram in the Indian National Capital Region, depicting women power. DD India correspondent Dibyendu Mondal spoke to the artist who helped in this redevelopment. Listen in.
As we celebrate the International Women's Day here at the Guru Dronacharya metro station in Gurgaon, you see how the power of women has been depicted by Indigo Airlines, and I'm joined by the artist who has painted these walls. What inspired you to make these paintings? What was the idea behind it?
The idea was to work around girl power. Indigo boasts a 44% workforce of women and wanted to represent that in some way, just how empowering that is.
And how long did it take for you to complete these entire paintings?
It took me 45 days to do this. Yeah.
And also, as we celebrate, the International Women's Day, how do you look at that, of the women force coming out and taking up challenging roles as well?
I think it's very empowering. I mean, imagine for a young girl to come and see that, any dream is possible. Like I would say when I'm painting, I have a lot of fathers bring their little kids just to watch me paint, because I'm still a woman on the streets painting and enjoying myself. So I think that is power. Just
also, as a women artist in this field, how has been your experience? What were perhaps some challenges you could have faced, and how did you overcome them?
I've been doing this for more than a decade now, so I guess my initial phases were we would go around, different people's homes and knock on their doors and try to get spaces to paint in the public, and just overcoming that. But other than that, I'm not worried about the heat, the mess. I love standing on the streets. I love drinking tea. I love having random conversations. So I'm not uncomfortable. You can put me anywhere in India and I'm comfortable.
Women are now leading many of the aspects, not just here, but also in fact, all aspects of life, in all jobs as well. But thank you so much for talking to Doordarshan. With Ramakant, this is Dibyendu Mondal from New Delhi for DD India.
With that report, wishing for a world where opportunities are boundless and women soar to new heights as we all get up to celebrate the International Women's Day tomorrow. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram at DD India Live. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from my entire team in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.